It's night. We're deep in the dense jungle of Laos, and you can see on the side of a small dirt road, there's a young family. The father is cradling a newborn little baby, and the mother, she's leaned up against a tree. You can tell things aren't looking so good for her. She's bleeding, she's in a lot of pain, and she's exhausted. She had just pushed out one of the babies that was inside of her, growing. She had been pregnant with twins. It had been hours, and the other child was still inside of the womb, not alive, poisoning her from the inside. At this point, her only hope was to wait for a vehicle to come by and hope that it was filled with friendly people that could help take him to the hospital versus enemy soldiers there to hunt them down. These are the survivors of that family. This is my brother, my mom, and my dad, my family. And this is only a small piece of their immigration story. You see, earlier this year, somebody had asked me why it was that I was doing so much, why I couldn't find rest in just doing one or two things. Now, while most people would be satisfied working one job or two, or having a business, doing something they like, maybe even love, for me, I couldn't stop at just that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mother and wife and a veteran. I run multiple facets of my photography and production business. Volunteer as a leader of a creative community. I help coach and mentor other entrepreneurs, and most recently, I opened a tea lounge. So the question was, why be driven to do so much? And at first, I wasn't sure how to answer because I hadn't really been asked that question before. And I thought about it, and after a long silence, I began talking, and I was surprised because what came out of my mouth wasn't really even a story about myself. It ended up being the story of my parents and how they came to be and their immigration story. My parents came from Laos, born and raised, and during the time of the Vietnam War, they found themselves running for 4 years, running for their lives. In that time, my parents buried 4 of their children and nearly died themselves, whether it be from the poor conditions or starvation. Now, the twins from earlier, neither one of them survived. Shortly after all the running and staying in the jungles, they finally made it to safety in the refugee camps of Thailand. And what was left there for them? More hardships. In those refugee camps, they were living on food rations, minimal food rations, not enough to share, not enough to go around. And so, since my parents were farmers, they did what they did best. They went out and they tried to farm these harsh lands to try to supplement and earn a little bit of money. Finally, in 1980, they were granted freedom, and they were granted the permission to come to the United States, the land of the free. It really did seem promising. And as soon as they got to the US, what was left there waiting for them? More uphill battles. They had now landed in a foreign country, not knowing a single person, not knowing the language or the customs, trying to navigate this new land with this young family, and really trying to live in this society that they had come to, that didn't understand who they were, that didn't respect them, and frankly, did not want them here. And it showed. So because of the language barrier and the education barrier, my parents ended up having to take a lot of hard labor jobs that physically took a toll on their bodies. Years and years of harsh work, brutally putting their bodies through all this work because that was the only kind of work they could get to help support their family. And after years of all this work and sacrifice, it really did seem like my parents were going through this endless cycle of suffering to more suffering. When it was finally time to rest, my dad passed away. And I thought to myself, all of that he'd gone through, that my parents had gone through, all that suffering, the sacrifice, everything, would that go in vain if I didn't go through and try to live my best life, take on any and all opportunities that were available to me? I wanted to show that my worth was there and that they had earned all of that for me and that I wasn't going to waste it. And I wasn't the only one that felt this way. For a long time, I did think I was. But then recently, I took part in a nonprofit photography project to showcase how people of color fit into a predominantly white society. And during this project, although my job was only to photograph these people, I really wanted to do more than that. I wanted to understand their stories, where they came from, what their lives were like, and how they were feeling. And what ended up happening was the folks that were first-generation immigrants like myself, I immediately connected with. I had found out that with all of them, they too were searching and seeking to live their best life because they had known that their own parents had had these sacrifices as well. Maybe different than my parents, but yet along the same lines. Now, as a child of immigrants, I think because everything is so raw and fresh, and it's happening in real time as we watch our parents live in it, as we live in it with them, their drive and their ambition for life and to prosper and to succeed against all odds is instilled in us because we're so close to it. But what of everyone else? What of those that are generations beyond us? Because let's face it, we have all either one, hailed from immigrants ourselves, or two, come from a deeply adverse and horrific past. So why the difference between a first-generation immigrant and those that have been here longer? I think what's happened is the world is getting complacent. We've gone generations after generations, and our immigration stories, they're now nothing but distant tales that have been told by our ancestors and passed down, that they don't even feel real anymore. They just feel like bedtime stories or stories that you tell people maybe to make them more motivated, but they don't understand because they're not living in it. Now, we used to have this drive, we all had it at some point, where we wanted to do nothing but succeed and try again. But with the world getting so complacent, it's really crippled us because now we try one thing, and if it doesn't work out, we quit, we stop. We go on to something else. We try another thing, and maybe it's working out great, but then we get bored. We don't want to do it anymore. It's too difficult. It's too hard to maintain or upkeep. Nope, sorry, bye. But my parents, they didn't let anything stop them because they didn't have a choice. When you come directly from a third world country, you don't have anything. You have no support system. You have no money. You have no one there to hold your back, to be there for you. Their immigrant mindset has really been instilled within us, but it exists in all of us. But how do we tap into that? What if we could? What if we could all have that same drive, that same motivation, that same ambition, and really go forth and pursue our best life without any obstacles in the way? And even if there are obstacles in the way, we push past them. Because right now, we see obstacles, and instead of seeing them as speed bumps in the road, we've turned them into roadblocks that stop us dead in our tracks. So let's stop that. Let's push past these barriers. Let's find our ambition again. Let's find our drive again. The question is how? And how is a hard part, and it's hard because it's actually quite simple. The how is we take away our option of easy. I'll say that one more time. We take away our option of easy. When you are toe-to-toe with adversity, what's your move? Do you call your parents? Do you ask a friend? Do you call your lifeline? Bring out the checkbook. But wait, what if you didn't have any of that? What if you literally had nothing? Just like your ancestors, just like my parents, just like my ancestors? What if you had absolutely nothing? What would you do at that point? We need to learn to live with more humility and humbleness and appreciate the things in life, appreciate all the opportunities that are given to us, and treat them like precious gifts instead of casting them away because they're not the perfect opportunity and they're not perfectly wrapped up the way that we want them to be. My hope is that this immigrant mindset and this drive and ambition for life and to pursue life to its fullest potential, that through this talk, my son, and maybe your sons and daughters and your kids in the future will be able to instill that immigrant mindset as well and have it live long after we are all gone. Now, our ancestors didn't have anything when they came here, just like how my parents didn't have anything when they came here. Now, that might not be the case today, but what we need to do is we need to channel their strength and take control of our lives, let go of easy, be in charge of where we want to go in our life and our path. So my question to you is, are you ready? Are you able to let go of easy? Because if you are, then I'd like to welcome you to the immigrant mindset.